Hi, this is Igor from hdhead.com. I'm going to tackle a really boring subject of indexing and media management because just the other day I had to delete about 5.5 terabytes worth of media from an Avid DS system. Media that was rendered using temporary quality, low quality settings, orphaned media and things like that. We needed to clean out the drives before we could do a final render on a 2K DI. And the whole process was so easy to do and took only 15 minutes that I was really amazed. So that's why I wanted to share some of the insights on how these things are done. And actually, it's not as boring as I thought it would be. So what is this media indexing to begin with? Avid DS spends a lot of muscle in the background trying to keep a track of your media, the clips that use that media, sequences these clips belong to, and so forth. Some nonlinear systems don't use indexing at all, or some use very little indexing. So the question is, why is it necessary to do it in the Avid DS when it comes at the expense of computer power that's consumed in the background while the indexing is taking place? Indexing is not really 100% needed, but it's actually very, very useful. It's nice for several reasons. One is it's really easy, as I mentioned at the beginning, to delete stuff that you don't need anymore. So big deal. I mean, you could go in and manually delete stuff, and people do it, and it's time consuming. You can make mistakes and delete stuff that's necessary and all that sort of stuff, but it's possible to do without the computer power. However, there's one, in my opinion, there's one reason why indexing is really, really cool, and I will show you what I mean. I'm going to make a little colored clip here on the timeline. That will do. And I will put another layer on top of that. So now we have a picture on top of a colored background, and I will add a DV clip effect to that. Maybe make it a little smaller, rotate it, put it up there in the corner, give it a little bit of border. And our section of timeline turns red because it needs to be rendered. So we will render that. And now the color's gone, and we can play back in real time. Now, let's say the client says, all right, well, that's cool, but what I really want is I want the picture to start full screen and then go into that little corner. And I will say that's fine. Let me just save this preset in case we need it again. And about halfway through, I will click on the DV effect, and I will keyframe all the parameters that I have changed. And then at the beginning, I will enter 0 into each one of these. And we'll blow this up to full screen. And observe what's happened on the timeline. Only the portion of the move that's animated is red, that it needs to be rendered. The rest of this is gray, which means that DS is using the pre-rendered cache so it doesn't have to render it again. If you look at the animation curves for this thing, you can see it exactly. Only the portion where there is a move is the portion that we have to render. So I highlight this, render it again. And then the client says, you know what, that's fine, but I changed my mind, forget about the move. And I say, fine, we can delete that, put that original DV effect I saved up here, and the portion of the timeline is rendered because DS knows that it was rendered before. It keeps track of all these parameters, knows that the picture was in this upper left corner with this exact same rotation and border and all this stuff. So whether I do this today, apply this clip effect back tomorrow, you know, as long as those caches are present on the disks, DS will link to them and will not need to render again. It gets even more cool than that. So for example, our auto keyframing is turned on. If I just do some pretty wacky thing, it doesn't really matter what we do here. Let's do this and that, and go to the end, do this. Let's render this. Look at our animation curves. If you just decide to make a little animation adjustment between several keyframes, like for example here right in the middle between the keyframe 2 and 3, for example, move it up, the only part of the timeline that needs to be rendered is this part where we have adjusted the move. Everything else is reused from the existing caches. To me, that's a real benefit. When you need the speed, you know, when you're working with a client or just basically don't want to spend a lot of time rendering, Avid DS will use whatever it can use, whatever it can find, instead of re-rendering it again. Some other NLEs, any little change you make, everything becomes unrendered, even though the media is still on the drives, but it's no longer accessible. Well, DS's indexing keeps track of all that stuff, so anytime you need to go back to something, if you change your parameters, with whether those are Avid DS's native effects or third-party plugins or whatever it is, if you're remaking something that existed before, something that was rendered, the indexers will link back to the existing media and you will not have to render it again. Inside of the DS, there are two tools that you can use to keep track of all this media. One of them is the Media tool, which is accessible from Data Management Media tool. I'm going to call it up from multi-instance view media tool so I can have it spread across the whole screen so we can see better what's going on. A media tool is very intuitive, but it's also very full-featured. And maybe a little difficult to explain what exactly is going on, but the bottom line is it allows you to see what media belongs to what entities, and also allows you to delete that media. And lastly, it also allows you to link to that media. If you have media that's orphaned, that does not have any clips attached to it, you can use this to easily link to that media. Up here on the top we have 4 icons. The first one is projects. If you drop it in the left pane, it gives you a list of all the projects on this particular workstation. If you drag the second icon, which is the sequence icon, it gives you a list of all the sequences in the current project. This icon gives you all the clips that are in use in this project, and this one gives you the list of all the media that's associated with this project. The tool also works in a different way. If I scale it down a little bit, I can drag and drop things from the bin. Like for example, if I want to see what media files are associated with this clip, so we have a clip, I drop the clip from the bin onto the pane on the left. It gives me the name of the media file, of .gen DS media file that this clip is using. You can sort, when you have more than one clip, you can sort this based on these columns up there, and you can also rearrange and customize these columns and save your custom presets. We'll just glance real quickly. Here's the location of your media. If you need to know what folder this is in, this is the folder. So we see that the video compression is a 3:1 standard def, 720 by 486. Some other pertinent information is there, and this is where the fun begins. So now, okay, we drag this clip from the bin onto the left pane. What if I drag it from here onto the sequence icon? It will give me the list of sequences this clip is used in. It's used in a sequence called premultiplication 2, 3, and 4. That's really interesting. If I drag it back here onto the media icon, it will give me again the media that this is used in. If I take the media, drag it and drop it onto the sequences icon, it gives me the sequences this media is used for. So you get the idea. If I drag and drop it onto the projects icon, it gives me the projects this thing is used in. Because there's a very complex relationship that you can establish between the media and clips. A clip can point to a piece of media, and multiple clips can point to the same piece of media. Those clips can belong to the same sequence, or they can belong to different sequences, or they can belong to different projects and different sequences altogether. So Media Tool is here to kind of shine the light on those and allow you to delete media if you wish to do so. So for example, let's say we'll go up here, go to the sequences. My current sequence is called Indexing and Media Management. We'll find it here. I will drag it and drop it onto the media icon, and this gives me the list of media. Multiple select these clips, or actually not, I'm sorry, not clips, multiple select this media, right click on it and say delete, and this will delete all these media files. You certainly can delete media in the media tool, but it may not be the best place. There's another tool called purge tool, which is designed for that very specific purpose. Also, since I right clicked on this, right now you can see there are some other options you can choose. You can copy and move media, defragment it, and do all kinds of stuff. Down here we have the common icons list, details, thumbnails, and script views of this media. Thumbnails is sometimes useful so you can quickly see what this media is. Sometimes you have orphaned media that's not attached to any clips. Well, if you identify those media files, you can click on T and you will have a little icon and see what's in those files.